Welcome to the Threat Insights Weekly group conversation. We have a pretty full agenda, so let's just jump right in. Top of the list is me. Ding, ding, ding. We've had a few conversations recently since we've launched standalone vulnerabilities and made the decision to use GraphQL at building the dashboards. I guess a question came up just in discussion between myself and I think Alexander, of whether we're still supporting all of the same REST endpoints. I know that Tiago and I have closed out a few issues recently pointing to GraphQL endpoints, dug a little bit deeper into this. I guess it was, Savash that added this. The handbook says that we should still be supporting both REST APIs and GraphQL endpoints. And I know I don't see any backend faces on this call, but my question is really, do we need an issue to create REST endpoints for things that we have built GraphQL endpoints for over the course of the last few months?
No.
That's a great question.
So Tiago, I think you might want to dig on this a little bit. Just looking at this handbook page, you know, GitLab is GraphQL first, but if you look at the handbook, it says that we still support all endpoints as REST.
Yeah, but support means keep the stuff that's already there working, right? Or does it mean parity? That's the question, isn't it?
Good question. I just know we've closed out some requests recently pointing to GraphQL endpoint saying, hey, we've got this covered. Mm-hmm. Hopefully they're listed here. If not, I'm a slacker. Yeah, no, I'm a total slacker. So I just wanted to bring that topic up because I know we looked at breaking changes as part of 13.0 and we looked at our REST endpoints then, but I'm not sure if going forward and new things that we've created, if we've made sure that we're supporting both technologies.
I don't want to, oh, sorry, Alexander, you go.
Well, okay, I was just going to make a joke, but I don't think it's worth it. But
jokes are good.
I heard the backend team doesn't have enough to do, and they would love to implement more API endpoints that will not be used.
I could hear your joke before you said it.
Yeah.
So I'll take an action to go find out what it is, but maybe I'm biased, I don't know, but I think support means keep the stuff that's already there working. Doesn't mean go do backwards compatibility to the REST API. Otherwise, you know, it's not double the work, but it's more work. So I'll take an action.
Thanks. So exactly what I'd hoped you'd say.
Could have started with that.
But you know. We got there. Okay, the second item, this came up in a Slack conversation around storing findings found around branches versus the master or the default in the database. And we've had a few issues related to this. So I wanted to, you know, per our handbook, if we talk about something asynchronously, a handful of times, we should bring it to the next call. So I added it to the agenda. And I think it actually relates to one of the items that Jonathan had added to the planning breakdown. So unfortunately, I don't see Jonathan here. And I don't actually know if we should proceed with this conversation without anyone from the backend team. Tiago, I'm sure that you have opinions and I'll let you share them.
My opinion is that this keeps coming up and I think we're gonna end up doing it. But you're right, I would prefer to have this discussion with the engineers.
Makes sense to me. You know, I know there was a totally different topic that Jonathan was talking about, setting up an asynchronous call with the EMEA base backend folks for tomorrow. I know that doesn't help you, Tiago, but I think maybe we need to, think about a way to get everyone on the same page about some of these bigger items.
Yeah, look, most of the people in the backend team for Threat Insights know a lot about all that and have come across the issue. So I know that Mehmet is well aware of it. So is Jonathan. So primarily, if these two are in the discussion, then everybody else can catch up later.
Cool. We're just going to keep trudging forward. Alexander, you got the next agenda item?
Yeah, so I have been working on this third-party list view, where basically a user can use a third-party scanner, and it'll show up in the security dashboard, and it'll have the scanner. It has the identifier and scanner column in there. And there's been some discussion recently on the issue as I have started to implement it, and I missed some things during planning breakdown, and that's my bad. But one of the things that came up was that the group and instance level security dashboards are a little bit busy with the added columns. Not only the checkboxes, they have the checkboxes, and then this is playing on the identifier column and the scanner type column, and with the graphs off to the side, it really squishes the vulnerability list together. And just today I was talking with Andy and Cam. Thank you for just sharing. I don't know why I didn't share the screen. This is a lot easier to look at, obviously. Anyways, this conversation, basically these columns are not going to go on the group and instance level dashboard at this time until those vulnerabilities over time graphs get moved off, and then the group and instance level dashboards will look the same as the project level dashboard. And then we will bring the columns in. I just wanted to call that out here, and if anybody has any comments on that or questions or concerns, the one concern I could see people having is how much is this extra work to conditionally show the columns? And the answer is yes, it was like 30 minutes worth of work, and it's already in review. But the floor is open for anything else.
No questions. So you're telling me that option 2 is what you guys have decided on at this point, and it's just not reflected in the issue yet?
Correct, because who knows when that other thing's going to get in. We can't rely on that.
That makes sense. So one of the things that I'm concerned about is that you had to read through a lot of comments to figure out where the gotchas were in this issue. Can you work together with Andy to make sure that the description gets updated to reflect not just this decisions, but others, and Camelia as well, other decisions that have been made through the course of the last, 3 months. Wow, that's a baby issue.
Yeah, it's blown up for 3 months. It's crazy.
So no, that's great. Thank you for filling us in. Those are my only questions. Anyone else?
Excellent. Next point. Thank you, Lindsay, for sharing the screen. Lindsay, carrots.
Carrots. Hey, I threw carrots all over the place today, but my carrots were super lonely. We talked about this in the staff meeting. I know not everyone is always able to make it to the staff meeting. One of the things that we discussed was making sure that we're kind of holding people accountable for looking at issues ahead of time going into planning breakdown. I think we use our time a lot better if people spend, I literally spent 15 minutes while I was one-handing eating my lunch, putting carrots on things and reading. So if folks, as a reminder, can try and take a little bit of time ahead of this meeting to go and pre-review the issues that are at least listed for planning breakdown. Again, I don't expect people to look at the whole entire agenda and go through everything, but at the very least, focus on what's coming up in the planning breakdown. I appreciate Alexander, you've been doing a good job of adding questions to the issue, and then commenting back here in the agenda, hey, I looked at it and added issues. That's helpful as well. But if you guys decide the carrot is a nuisance to remember, let us know. We can adjust.
I'd like to thank you, Lindsay. And I didn't forget to add the carrots. I just didn't look at the planning issues. None of them. I need to do better with these early meetings. I gotta do them the day before. There's no chance I'll do them.
Isn't it like Wednesday for you now? Have you had like 3 days under your belt?
I know.
Some of us are still adjusting from the weekend.
I need to do better. I'm taking this on.
All right.
I like the carrots. I like the carrots. I love them.
I forgive you, but
I'm looking forward to add some carrots.
I'm never going to get over this. No, I'm just kidding. Picking a random person. All right, I'm off the agenda now for a while. Daniel, you've got the next. So Daniel, Savas, and Alexander all have demos here to share. I admittedly did not go through the demos ahead of time. If anyone did and has questions, or if Daniel or Alexander have anything you guys want to highlight about the demo or add informationally for the group.
I'll just demo real fast.
Sure, cool. I like it. Ever since I've seen this issue, I've gotten annoyed that there's so many other parts of the product that don't update instantaneously.
There we go. Now I'm unmuted.
Oh, there you are.
Okay, so the when one user changes the state before it didn't update for the other user, and so now it does. That's pretty much it.
Woo-hoo.
Okay, thanks for watching.
Which goes to say that if you're the person making the updates, those will be reflected right away as well. It's not like the sidebar situation we have with the issue tracker where you have to refresh.
Yeah, it's not right away. There's at most a 6-second delay, but you'll get it eventually.
All right, accept that. Okay, and then we have a huge list for planning breakdown today. So I've been trying to go through and add a little bit more information to the agenda to tell people sort of the urgency or the priority as far as where things are classified. So I've been adding these, whether it's a bug or a feature or backstage, and then where it's sitting. So the first item is mine, and I can share. And this is a sharing. This is a bug reported by Philippe. We love Philippe's bugs. And it's about items showing the banner saying that they've been resolved when they haven't. So whether it's a data inconsistency, I'm not sure. Again, we don't have a lot of faces from the backend team here right now. We've currently got this slated for 13.3. It was created a month ago, and it's a P3, which means we've got the 90 days. So if we want to punt this and talk about it when we've got Mehmet or Jonathan or Alan or somebody here, we can do that.
I think there's one unique thing about secrets for this issue, right? Is that secrets, through secret detections, I noticed if you scroll down in this particular issue, the identifier was like truffle hog or, yeah. So secrets may not appear in the default branch, but we are parsing those historically and almost doing that branch storage of secrets because we have the historical secret scan. So by the nature of a secret, though it appears bad, it's not currently stored in the branch. So that's probably why we're seeing a lot of this, hey, it's not in the master branch. You did a good job. No,
is that specific to secrets, or are there other attributes or things that files that we'd store similar to secrets?
I know that secrets will make this a unique case, but I don't know if this is persistent to any of the other scan types. I just remember an issue where Taylor, PM for SAST, has called that out specifically for secrets. So I just wanted to bring that up.
Thanks. Could you add it as a comment to this issue, Andy, just for transparency?
Sure.
Thanks. And I'm guessing we should leave this on the agenda for future. I'm still sort of on the fence around bugs in planning breakdown. You know, whether we actually really should discuss bugs in planning breakdown. I've been a little subjective about it. Tiago, I don't know if you have opinions, but this is probably a good example of one that could be handled during just by going straight to refinement. So.
Yeah, you know, taking the asynchronous first approach, I think if a bug is clear and understandable enough to skip planning breakdown, I'm happy with that.
Okay, so would you want to take the ball on this one to, Andy said he'd add his comment around secrets, so I think it's really good information, but to move this over to refinement and assign it off for 13.3 to have someone on the backend team to look at?
Yeah, it has anyone from the, this is not going to be a front end thing, is it? Doesn't look like one anyway.
Especially after what Andy just said, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
And that was one of the factors that made me bring it to this call because I wasn't really sure who to send it to, triage it to.
Can do.
Thank you. So I'm just going to add a note. He's already typing, so I'll let him do that. Let's move on to the next one. Savash isn't here. So we've been making progress on, we removed the first class vulnerabilities feature flag. We've been having some discussion around what additional code cleanup needs to take place now. So we've got an issue created around the front end that we can start discussing. And I'm not sure if the one that we just looked at, this remove first class vulnerabilities flag, handled any additional backend cleanup that would have been required. So that would be my question back to Tiago and his team, or something to look at and check and see. Like I said, we have an issue created for the front end for Vuex.
Yeah, I remember that, but I wasn't paying attention just now. Let me have a quick recap.
Sure.
Have a quick recap.
And while you're doing, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, I dropped off for a second.
You're back.
But I'm back, and I just wanted to say I agree. The other issue looked like a back-end issue. Totally.
I still think my real thumb is a lot easier than trying to find the reactions thing in Zoom and adding a thumbs up. So my question out to Daniel and Alexander, since Savash created this issue, do you feel that this meets all of our criteria for planning breakdown? I have already moved it to ready for dev, but he did list it here. So I wanted to double check with you guys whether it's we understand our boundaries, the requirements clear, and if it's something we think we can accomplish within a iteration. I think are our three.
Yeah, I did the refinement for the front end ticket. The one that's linked in the yeah, that's the one. The one that's linked in the doc has been closed as a duplicate, so I think we should replace or add this one in.
So that was a confusion, and it was closed. The duplicate that it's linked to is wrong. It's okay, Tiago, we forgive you. This was closed because it's completed. So completed in that the flag doesn't do anything anymore. So my question still stands.
Completed in that I actually removed the flag from production and staging. So if the flag was still doing anything, all sorts of things would be broken now.
Which they aren't.
Which they aren't. I know it wasn't. There was nothing else to do, right? It was like, well, we just gotta take the leap of faith now.
But I think Daniel's question was similar to mine earlier, is that was about removing the flag and making sure that the flag doesn't drive the experience. You know, if there's any additional code cleanup that needs to be done, whether it's based on, you know, how the findings worked or anything like that.
I think there is, but I'm not too sure if it's just front end or if there's back end as well.
We have a front end one, yeah. So that's the question: is do we need a separate? And I think that would make sense. Would be to have a separate issue for any back end cleanup.
The cleanup on the back end was done as the flag was removed.
Cool.
So
great.
No.
So then we've got this one currently slated for 13.3, which is filling up very quickly, even though we just started 13.2. And it's all refined. Thank you, Daniel. And I think we're moving.
Wait, I have a question about that.
Yes, go ahead.
Tiago, when you said the cleanup was done part of the flag being removed, correct me if I'm wrong, but the cleanup you're talking about is changing occurrences to findings, right? In the back end, or was there more work to be done?
So anywhere where there was a conditional logic using the flag, the code that wasn't called anymore was removed. So it's a good question. I'm not 100% sure if that's only the thing. I find it hard, but if you know that there's some stuff that wasn't removed because the front end is still using, then why don't I have a look at the front end issues? If the front end issues are there and have the specific things that need to be removed, it wouldn't take long for a backend engineer to just find the corresponding backend code, if there's any.
No, I just wanted clarification on what you meant by that. I'm satisfied, so I don't think there's anything more work. Thank you.
All right. Sweet. Yeah, no worries.
I'm not totally satisfied, but it's only because I've spent a lot of time trying to understand the difference between findings and vulnerabilities, and then people throw around the word occurrences, and I get really twitchy again. And I know this has come up as part of our retrospective feedback, so I'm going to table this right now, but this idea of having maybe like a workshop around sort of some of the historical domain knowledge around findings and occurrences and vulnerabilities.
Some documentation.
some documentation. We've definitely identified that improvements to our product documentation are necessary, but we can't do that until we as a engineering group understand it, and as a technical writing team. I see Nick over there. So we'll just move on from that.
And Matt and I are actually working on some research initiatives to understand vulnerability, like unique vulnerabilities and how they work in vulnerability management enterprise as like occurrences or instances of. So I think it's confusing because it's confusing, and we're also like still kind of building it a little bit.
It's confusing because it's confusing and it's a moving target. So it makes
Every
me feel a
competitor,
lot
like,
better.
Yeah. Everyone does it differently. It's weird. There's no one we can look at and be like, oh, that makes sense.
And these discussions have evolved a lot within the secure and into defend stages of GitLab as well. And we don't have the benefit of anyone in this discussion, with the exception of Andy, having been part of a lot of those conversations. So, we don't want to ignore the domain knowledge and the historical knowledge that can be shared with us. Let's talk about more GraphQL. Daniel.
Yeah, so we've mentioned this in the past about migrating the standalone vulnerability page to use GraphQL instead of the REST endpoints. And so I created this ticket that apparently has been changed to design to discuss how we're going to handle the migration.
Tiago, do you want to explain sort of the paradigm around design?
Yeah, sure. Once that issue was a bit large, and we figured it was going to take a few, maybe not a few, but more than one iteration to complete, with several issues back-end, front-end, I created an epic, a container epic, that one. Thank you. And as part of planning breakdown, I've asked you and the back-end engineers to suggest what the issues should be. So Mehmet gave me a list of 4 issues that he suggested. I thought they were good. I put them in there. He's already out of the way for most of them. There's one of them is pending a decision around whether we need 2 mutations for the state or just 1, because apparently there are some background tasks around feedback when the state changes, but not for other fields change. So there's a discussion on whether you need a separate one for that. And I'm hoping to do the same with front end. So you've answered my question as well. So part of my job today was going to be create those issues. But if someone else wants to take them, more than welcome to.
So just to be clear, this design issue is going to reflect the plan and the requirements and the overall what we need to do as an engineering organization to support these endpoints in GraphQL, which I know, Daniel, this is a little bit, I don't think we've done a great job of explaining this across the whole engineering organization. So you probably created this thinking that it was going to end up being sort of the implementation issue. This is kind of our evolution of trying to be able to break things down into separate front-end, back-end issues, having something on the issue boards that reflect that progress of planning to get up to the build point of like, okay, now we're ready to break this down and create those implementation issues. Epics are limited in their functionality, so we're using this as a design issue to gain all of those requirements. The epic will then be sort of the container of all those implementation issues with a reference back to this design issue for requirements. And we hope that the conversation from a high level can stay here in the design issue, which will leave your implementation issues for questions that are really specific to that part of the code or part of the problem that you're solving. Does that help?
Yep, for sure.
Cool.
And Lindsay, one more thing that this is trying to solve is that the confusion when you have to go through a long history of threads and discussions. All right, so what did we agree again? With this approach, you sort of take away just, okay, this is what was agreed, and this is the final requirement, and then that's on the implementation issue.
Right. So the
helps
conversation we hope will happen here in the design issue, and then the output of those conversations will be what is used to feed the issue description for those implementation issues. You want to avoid all the scrolling through comments that we talked about earlier to figure out what the requirements actually are.
And I've shared the diagram and the product development flow, which has more information about the use of epics in the general process. I gotta drop off soon.
We've got 4 minutes. Let us have our 4 minutes. Let's wrap up this one. Alexander, did you want to verbalize your very thorough comment here that I've read, I swear, twice now?
I remember, as I mentioned in this comment, that back when we were going to remove the HAML from the standalone vulnerability page, it was deprioritized with the reason of like, no more features are coming to this page. Like, it's going to be kind of like static for a while. And, now that we've done that, and now there's this ticket, I was just kind of curious what the future looks like for this page.
And that's the vulnerability details page, right?
Correct.
It looks bright and bushy, and it's going to have, it will be one of the driving forces that makes vulnerability management important and usable at GitLab. And we'll be working with the monitor team who's implemented alerts to hopefully create a like synchronous design that we can kind of borrow each other's work on the monitoring health side, because they have like first class or standalone alerts or incidences as well. But it will be very important to us.
Okay, so there's a lot coming down the pipeline then. Correct.
Yeah, there will be. Not at this moment, but yeah, you'll see things kind of evolve over time as the maturity of the group, or vulnerability management moves into complete and into lovable.
Oh, cool. Then this is the perfect time to start doing this, or like looking at this ticket and epic and stuff. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I think our last question or our last topic will be Sebastian's suggestion that I'll verbalize around perhaps approaching this behind a feature flag, ways that we can do this conversion of the standalone page to use GraphQL and limit the overhead and the risk. Daniel, Alexander, anyone, Tiago, anyone? Thoughts on that?
I think we can do it piecemeal, where once the backend endpoint is in place, we can convert the front end part of the code that uses the or that would use the GraphQL endpoint. And the reason is because the REST endpoints aren't going anywhere. And if the GraphQL for other endpoints isn't in yet, we can still use the REST endpoint. So I don't think we necessarily need to have a feature flag. We could just convert what endpoints are available.
My thoughts exactly.
What he said. And I'm off. Apologies. I got a back-to-back.
No problem. Thank you, everyone. I will share the recording of this call, and I will bump the remaining 3 agenda items to talk about next week. So I appreciate all of your time and company.
Thanks, friends.
Bye. Bye.